Hey everyone, and welcome to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and I'm joined, as always, by my curly-haired co-host, Tara.
Greetings, citizens.
I like that. There was a little bit of shake there. You could throw your hair around. When I was in high school, I
I
had
know,
long
I'm very
hair.
Shirley Temple today. I'm trying to grow mine out long, but it's curly, so it takes 4 times as long as everyone else trying to grow out their hair.
Do you know what would actually do you know what would be a good length of time for your hair to grow out, probably to far beyond what you want it to, is the amount of time it takes to journey to Neptune? In theory.
Seemed a little sped up for this film, but that's okay. I'm glad that mankind has figured out how to get to Neptune in under 80 days.
We are a science fiction movie podcast. Every week we talk about sci-fi movies. Although this is actually an extra episode because most of our episodes go up a week early on Patreon, over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, and then they sort of, come in a week later and they go up. But this is a brand new movie in theaters, so instead of slotting this into the weekly schedule, this is just happening on top of the regular episodes. So hey, it's an extra episode.
Yeah, believe it or not, we've never done this before.
Yeah, we haven't actually. Yeah, this is the first time. And we'll have another one next month because Terminator, Dark Fate, the next one. I mean, in theory, we could do Gemini Man, but you know what? I'm okay waiting. I'm okay waiting.
See, that's the thing about being a science fiction movie show is that sometimes you got to do the ones you really don't want to see.
I can wait for home video. I'm not like. Is anyone really like desperate for my thoughts on?
You made a person from another person.
Do you remember when Will Smith movies were exciting? Because there was a time. There was a time when his movies were exciting, and it's been a while. It's been a good decade at least. So we're here to talk about Ad Astra, which is a science fiction film which kind of came out of almost nowhere. Like, I think I heard about this a month ago, maybe. Something like that. You know, the trailer kind of popped up not that long ago, and I didn't really know anything about it, but it's a Brad Pitt movie. It's a sci-fi movie. I think the only time it popped up before, I think I vaguely remember like going through Wikipedia like at the start of the year, like all the release dates, and oh, Ad Astra sci-fi, what's that? Oh, Brad Pitt's on it. Maybe that'll be good. I don't know, but then forgot about it completely because there was nothing to go on. But anyway, as always, we will start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get into the spoilers. So Ad Astra is a film set in the not too distant future, although distant enough that space travel is much better. You know, we have a base on the moon, we've got a base on Mars, and Tommy Lee Jones played this big astronaut scientist dude who went out on this big mission to go to the edge of the solar system to Neptune because Pluto doesn't count anymore. I'm still a little salty of Pluto being deleted.
Did they bring him back?
Did they? I don't know. They keep like I grew up.
Isn't Pluto a planet again?
I grew up believing there was 9 planets, and all of a sudden they were like,
well, that's
no.
the beauty about science. It's not religion. You're not stuck to one book.
Well, Pluto's definitely there. Just is it a planet or isn't it? You should have just made the right call. Like,
well, yeah, but the thing is, it's like an alien, right, to our solar system. So if we accept Pluto as a planet, then we have to accept the other 2 that are like further beyond as part of our solar system too, because they're technically the same things.
So it's not a planet, is what you're saying?
It's a dwarf planet. I knew that day would happen. I was not surprised by the news.
Oh, la-di-da. Smarty Pants Tara over here. Well, Tommy Lee Jones goes out there and he leaves his, at the time, teenage son, Brad Pitt, behind. Roy McBride's his character's name. So he's been gone for years. They lost contact like over a decade ago. It's been a long time. And the film is about Brad Pitt, his character, has Roy McBride, who is tasked with trying to contact his father because something strange is happening. There's these weird surges of energy coming in from Neptune, and it's causing a lot of chaos and damage, and they're theorizing that it'll keep getting worse until it could potentially wipe out all life. It could potentially be a extinction level event. So a lot of the film is Brad Pitt sneaking, to the moon, then to Mars, because they have to go, because like a lot of their communications, the long distance communications, have all been knocked out, and the one place that's still able to communicate is in the basement, like underground on Mars. So a lot of the film's getting there, and it's about kind of that journey. I'll leave that now for spoiler free, but I will also just kind of add thematically the movie is a lot about the fact that it's his father, son and father's relationship, and the idea of becoming your father. There's a lot of thematic stuff in there about what his father means to him and what sort of effect he had on him, by leaving and things like that. That's the sort of stuff the movie explores. So yeah, that's Ad Astra. So I shall ask the question. This is exciting. This is the first time I've done a theatre release on the show. Tara, did you enjoy Ad Astra?
Yeah, of course I did. It's definitely my type of film.
Yeah, it was my type too. Don't get me wrong. Thinking about some things since I saw it have definitely poked some holes in some plot. There's definitely some flaws in there. It is not a perfect movie. In fact, it's almost kind of obnoxious. A couple of points where it just kind of just goes, just don't worry about it. Just go with it. Right? It is guilty of that. But the thing is I think the movie's emotion and visuals and the overall sort of atmosphere that it gives you and the journey that it puts you on is engrossing enough that I don't really care about some of the scientific leaps that are perhaps made, or in some cases literal leaps that are made that are physically a little. And I'm no physics expert. I'm not. But there was one big moment towards the end that really made me go, "Oh, come on a minute.
Yeah, I know.
I know enough about space to know this wouldn't happen."
Me too. But it still was a really good scene.
It was a visually very, impressive to look at scene for sure.
Yeah.
And the movie is full of stunning vistas. I love how the moon looks. I love how I'll just say there's like a car chase essentially on the moon.
So unexpected and so great.
Yeah,
I really didn't know what to expect from the film because the trailer doesn't really tell you all that much.
Yeah, I knew he was going on a journey. I knew he was going to try and contact his father, but that was pretty much it. I didn't really know anything else.
Nope. Didn't know we were going to Mars.
Yeah, no, and they casually bring it up. And I like kind of the aesthetic the world gives us of that. Like, when he gets to the moon, and we see a subway, and we see like a Starbucks like on this moon. It's like a mall, like on a moon base, and just little aesthetic things like that. I like the world building. I think the world building is really good. I think the direction is really strong. The director clearly doesn't give a shit about what's scientifically feasible, which is fine because I think this is a movie that's more about the character story than it is about the actual the logic of the actual plot. It cares more about what the journey means to him and what his father means to him than it does about figuring out how he's able to do this thing or that thing. There's one particular thing that really sticks out to me that kind of really breaks the whole movie in half. Which I think I can kind of talk about in spoiler free. I don't even think I need spoilers for this because I said a big part of the film is him getting to Mars to contact, to send out a message to hopefully find where this ship that went out there like all these years ago is, and because it's his son, it'll be a personal connection. That's all in the trailer. This idea that you're going to have to contact him because it's your father. And he got there, and all I could think was, couldn't he have recorded a message just on Earth, and they could have sent the message to Mars?
Well, did they set that up that everything's been damaged?
Well, to send
and
it
the
out,
reason they have to go to Mars is just because their base is protected, but also because there's no atmospheric, like I don't know what word I'm looking for, like resistance or something.
Well, they said
to interfere with the signal all the way to Neptune.
Well, yeah, but I took it as there's no long-range communication. But even if that's true, even if there's not even communication between, the moon and Mars and the Earth and the moon, right? But still, why not just record a message, put it on a disc, and give it to like a team of elite soldiers or whoever? Like he doesn't technically need to physically go there. Now, I kind of talked myself out of that plot hole during the scene because I thought, they're expecting it to maybe be a live back and forth maybe, and that's why it has to be there to actually communicate. But that never actually happens. So like, I don't know. It's one of those things where I don't really care. I'm bringing it up because I think it's worthwhile to, because people are going to complain in the comments. People who don't like this movie, who are going to nitpick it to death, are going to be like, here's what's wrong with it, here's what's wrong with it, here's what's wrong with it. And I acknowledge them. I notice most of them. But I still really like the movie. It's still a really solid character movie. And it's really beautiful. The music's really good. You definitely have to be into a melodramatic tone of sci-fi.
It's slow.
Yeah.
It's definitely slow. But there are parts that really speed up when they become a totally different type of film. Like you mentioned, there's a car chase. There's a there's a moment where it becomes like a horror film.
Yes, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in the Yule spoilers.
And like there on his journey, there are obstacles that
hmm.
really cause a lot of tension. So it's slow, but if you break it up by scene, it's not really that boring, and there's nothing I would really take out from the film.
No, like for me, this is the type of tone that I like in a sci-fi movie. I think some people find it a bit too
Hmm.
melodramatic. I do think there's maybe an argument that the the narration, because there's a lot of narration in the film. Like Brad Pitt's constantly kind of like, talking about the meaning of life and existence and what it is to be a man and all that sort of
Yeah.
shit. And some of it I think is fine. Some of it really fits the moments that it's in. Although sometimes it did feel like this is here for exposition as opposed to like giving us the
Sure,
insight
but
of the
I mean, they
character.
set it up right away, and it never really goes away.
Sure, no,
And
it's
so,
consistent at
and
least, yeah.
because you are analyzing his character versus his father, and I think it's good to be inside his head because he is a very stilted man. Like a lot of the performance reminded me of um, Ryan Gosling in First Man when
Sure,
he was playing Neil Armstrong. So, I mean, presumably this could even be based off the same guy.
based off Neil Armstrong.
Yeah. I mean, not like true story, but the character could be.
Okay, I get shit. Yeah,
Like this is the type of person that the personality you need to make it into space.
I mean, I think if I was to make a critique, it's not just like a sciencey or plot hole or whatever, right? Because there's a bunch of those, and I acknowledge them all, and I still like the movie anyway. I was still into it the whole time. I was still
Hmm.
engrossed. I was still caring about what was going on. There was the one moment towards the end, where was the one moment during well, maybe actually one of two moments during the film, and I kind of cringed a lot. Well, not cringed. That's not the right word, but just sort of gave it a bit of a side eye and went, that's an interesting choice. Like the scene we were talking about earlier, and then there's one sort of a little bit earlier as well. Just a couple of creative choices that feel just a little bit strange, but I'm really into the movie, and I think it's really, really good. If I was to critique it in a more sort of another sense, in a more sort of overlook sense, I would say that it is a little bit guilty of feeling like a bit of a combinations of a bunch of different movies. Like there's
Yeah.
definitely a little bit of 2001, there's a little bit of Interstellar, there's a little bit of Gravity, there's a little bit of there's probably a couple that I'm not thinking. I mean, there's a bunch of different things like that that kind of go in there. I'm sure people will name about another 10.
The Martian.
Maybe a little bit of The
There's
Martian.
definitely a
Yeah,
Martian moment.
yeah, yeah. I think because Gravity was the one that really stuck out to me, even though obviously Gravity was much more like it's in one location essentially. But I mean, give or take, because it's in space. But like it's just like her trying to survive right above the Earth and get blah blah blah.
Hmm.
But the thing about Gravity that makes it a great story beyond just the action is that it's about her overcoming something personally. It's about her decision
Yeah.
to want to live, and a lot of this movie is about the fear of the unknown or the wanting to believe in the unknown, the commitments and the way that the obsession over these things versus what you have. Because ultimately, if I was to say that what the message of this movie is to not take for granted for what you actually have. Don't obsess about things that are elsewhere and what you could have. Appreciate what you do have. Was one of the big themes of the film, I think, for me. Um,
Yeah. Or just, I mean, I was obsessed with him because of his narration, like figuring out why he's different from his father, living up to his father's image. And that's, yeah.
well, that was the end of the set. Oh, sorry.
That was it, yeah.
um, yeah,
Sorry,
no,
my cat's like freaking out and destroying my house right now.
yeah, we'll get into a lot of the character stuff in the spoilers because obviously we have to kind of save a lot of it for that. But it does have a message. It does have a strong character, and it's definitely a movie that I know some people are going to hate. Like like watching it, I knew some people were going to hate it because it was so determined on one guy. Because some other characters are there just to serve his plot. Because other characters are not really deemed as very important, and you can almost look at it as an analogy. Like you could almost look at it as nothing that really happens in this has to be taken too literally. You could almost the film's just a symbolic thing for something. And
Hmm.
I'll talk about that in spoilers because I can't really go into details yet. But you've got that. I think the overall aesthetic of it's my type of like the wonder
Yeah.
of space, the wonder of like the
Oh, the
beyond.
effects were beautiful. Like
Yeah.
getting to see Neptune like that and was so cool. But I love the aesthetic and the technology because it's very much today's technology, but a moon base. But everything still looks like today. Like even you see a picture of his father from when he was in high school, and it's a black and white photo, which is just Tommy Lee Jones' actual like high school photo. So it makes you think, when did he have a color photo if he was like in the not too distant
It was a
future
it was a
after?
stylistic choice, Tara.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It makes it seem like this is
no,
almost
no, no.
like an
I mean
alternate
for the
universe of
character. I mean the character getting his photo was like, I want black and white because it'll make me look classy.
give me sepia toned, please.
To be fair, it's not uncommon if you're getting like a set of professional photographs to get like a set that mixes both color and black and white. That's quite common.
Okay.
It
It
is.
was definitely an old photograph.
But shit, no, I'm not disputing. But I'm just saying that there is, like, I don't believe that black and white photos would be gone in 50 years' time because,
Yeah, it's not just a black and white photo though. It's the quality of the photos from
sure, sure,
a long time ago.
sure. Hey, Firefly, my cat Firefly's wanting to have some input in this. Um, no, like I thought the aesthetic, like I love the tone of it, the sort of the dreamy music, like even the opening of the film, like it's just this like lens flare effect in space, and then you just see like the circle of the space helmet for a second,
Mhm.
and then it goes back to being a lens flare. It's definitely going for that kind of ethereal, like otherworldly beyond that we just like it's so vast. And because I was thinking of Carl Sagan a little bit as I was watching this about
Billions and billions. I think about Carl Sagan every day.
yeah, that great speech that he's got about the pale blue dot and how science and astronomy is supposed to humble us. And I think part of the point of this film is to humble us and make us appreciate what we have. And that was a
Mhm.
running thing, especially once it got to the end. It really started to like make its points. Now, is it on the nose? Is the narration especially kind of making the points very clear so that you don't necessarily have to think about it too much? Especially at the end, was there one or two lines that I wished they'd just kept those out? Just let it sit and let us do that final little leap ourselves. Yeah, sure, it's not perfect, but I was engrossed the whole time, and if it felt like this epic journey. It felt like the like all of the visuals were pretty stunning. Like there was almost nothing in this movie where I was like, that was a boring shot. Even when he's just like in a room taking like
Mhm.
his psych eval test, which is maybe the one bit of like tech where it's a little bit different. It's just like a little tab that he just puts on his neck, and it's like, that'll read everything. Um, that'll do all the work. Like it's that kind of like just into the future. Like it's just a little bit, because I mean they
Yeah.
do start off with the giant space antenna, which is legitimately a giant like tower that goes from the surface of the Earth into the upper atmosphere.
Right. But it still looks like if we were to build one today, that it would look like that, you know?
They're spending too much money on the
Like it's
wall.
really not too distant future according to this, but it has to be pretty far into the future.
Sure, yeah. Like how much progress they've made and how much they've built on like the moon and Mars, and the fact that like space flight is commercial. Like you pay for a
Mhm.
rocket ship, but it
Oh,
is
and
worth
the
mentioning.
inflation.
Yeah, but it is worth mentioning that it is a rocket ship. It's not like a spaceship that just takes off like a plane. It is a
Mhm.
more traditional style. I mean, it's a little bit more advanced, but it has a
Yeah, with the
rocket.
capsule that comes
Yeah.
off at the end to land on the moon.
They're definitely, which is funny. It's funny that it went for that grounded look of science, of like this is a
Yeah.
grounded look of space travel, but the actual science is complete nonsense at several points in the story. So that's an interesting choice. Whereas when I watch something like The Expanse, which really like really cares about the physics and like all the space battles are like really cool because they take into account all the things that you'd have to take into account if you were fighting in space. It doesn't just do the Star Wars thing where laser beams whatever. Like it just doesn't matter. Um, the idea that the
Never
rockets
seen
would,
it.
and I know you've never seen it, but you would love The Expanse. Like I promise you would. Um,
I'm not gonna watch it.
oh my
I just I I don't watch TV. I watch HBO.
god. So yeah, you get some other faces in there. Ruth Negg is in there in a small role. She was on Agents of Shield and Preacher. Read a bunch of different stuff. Donald Sutherland's got a relatively small role. Reliable face. what's her face? She's not even high up in the cast list. Liv Tyler is got a small role as well. So there's a lot of dependable faces
and
popping up.
My lover, Greg Breik.
What?
Who has a very, very small role.
Who?
But he is the father. He is the father in Far Cry 5 and Far Cry New Dawn. I love him so much. He doesn't know that we're lovers yet.
Oh, I do recognize his face actually.
Yeah. He was the guy on Mars with the bun that guys wear. I don't remember what they're called.
Yeah, I think we're just about ready to dive into spoilers, but I just, I think the movie's really good. I think it's worth seeing on the big screen as well. Do make a point of going to see it if you're interested.
Oh yeah, I mean visually you have to. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a really pretty movie, and can I just say I'm so glad that this movie was almost exactly 2 hours and not 3 hours like most of the movies that I've had to see in the last few months. It was just a nice, pleasant surprise. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Did you end up going to see that Midsummer re-release?
Not the re-release, no. I mean, I liked that movie a lot, but that movie was already like 2 hours 40 minutes, and like horror movies typically shouldn't be that length for good reason.
Yeah, although I really did like that one, despite the length. And Chapter 2 was like 3 hours. Yeah. And I went and saw a re-release of Gone with the Wind, which was like 4 hours long. You're right. I've only seen like 3-hour epics the last month.
Yeah. The problem is though, at least Midsummer was a good movie. Chapter 2 was 3 hours of not good movie. I'll be nice about it.
It's like half good, half could be cut. I think we all know what half.
So much of that movie could be cut. The problem is that it doesn't even make it does this weird thing where it almost makes the first movie redundant by having all these weird flashbacks, and I don't know, it's just weird. Anyway,
check out the review on Screams After Midnight.
Yeah, check out the review of Screams After Midnight. And Tim liked the first movie and is a huge Stephen King fan, and it's his favorite book. Stephen King's It is his favorite book of all time, and
So you'll want to know his opinion.
Hey, I won't spoil it. But let's just say that was a salty review. So yes, Ad Astra. We're going to go into spoilers. Before we do, though, Tara's going to tell you all about Patreon.
Yeah, you can check out our Patreon page if you like what we do. It's patreon.com/MalphusTV, and you can donate as little as $1 per month, and you'll get bonus episodes. We've done quite a few bonus episodes so far, like Judge Dredd, Trancers,
Time Cop,
probably Leviathan.
Yeah, Leviathan might happen someday.
which I've been postponing for some reason. Even though I watched the movie, unfortunately Peter's had to watch it 3 times.
Well, only twice so far.
I've been so busy.
But I might have made some threatening remarks if I had to watch it a third time. In fact, do you know what I'm going to do? For anyone who showed up to the live stream on Saturday the 21st of September, and we're told to go away because plans had came up, and then I had to switch it back to that same night again.
That darn Connor.
Yes,
always screwing with your schedule.
Yeah. That might have been Leviathan related, and it might have been a certain Tara that was to blame for it. So if you hold any grudges for that,
look forward to our Leviathan bonus review for $1.
Yeah, you can pay for the privilege of listening to the review that delayed that thing. Anyway, yes, so go to spoilers for Ad Astra. So the movie, starts somber enough. It starts with this big kind of, he's just out on the big tower, and it's one of those things where I thought he was in space and there was no gravity, but then obviously once people start falling, it's clear, oh no, they're still kind of in the atmosphere enough that there's gravity. And they're on this huge tower. I thought it was literally a space station until there was shots looking down, and I'm like, oh wait, no, that's just going all the way down. That's just going into the earth. Sure. And the power surge, the first big surge that happens, hits this station, and there's like chaos, and some people fall, and McBride's trying to be a hero and cut power to something to try and save some people, and he ends up getting knocked off. And that scene does a couple of things. It shows us that he's cool under pressure because he's spinning as he's falling, and he's talking to himself and talking to comms saying, "Hey, I'm trying to keep calm so I don't black out. I'm trying to stabilize my fall." And of course, he had a parachute, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. If it's possible to fall from this, give the astronauts a parachute because then they can at least survive. And sure enough, he does. But it becomes very visceral very quickly, and I was like, and I got really kind of confident during this scene because I thought, you know what, I don't know if the movie's going to completely work for me yet, but at the very least, this was shot very well, and I was kind of into the action of it the entire time.
Oh yeah, when like the debris is falling and it goes through his parachute and such, and like he's just free falling for a moment, like that was terrifying. But it reminded me a lot of Gravity, of course, for obvious reasons. But it was done really well, and tension was there. I didn't feel sick watching it because that is a risk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But no, it looked great, and you know, he's brought in and given this classified information and told how serious everything is, and you can't tell anyone. But yeah, we think your father's still alive. You've been under the impression he's been dead for like 10, 15 years, but we think he's alive, and we think that that ship has something to do with this. So we're going to try and contact him. And we need you to do this kind of thing. So this kind of sets on that the first half of the movie is very much the journey to the moon and then the journey from the moon to Mars. And he's not allowed to tell anyone what he's doing, so it's all very kind of hush-hush. He's taking a commercial flight. Donald Sullivan is kind of given to him as his handler to kind of look after him as he's going. This is someone who knew his dad because he's also ancient, in case that wasn't clear.
I know.
He's an old
man.
The
original Hawkeye.
The original Hawkeye?
Hawkeye from MASH.
Ah, I've never seen MASH.
Yeah, I don't think it's for you.
Yeah. I was thinking Don't Look Now and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and
Yeah, I guess he's probably more known for Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
I think so.
But I'm a MASH fan, so I'll always know him as Hawkeye Pierce.
So yeah, and some of this stuff is really great. A lot of it's just really good world building. There's some teases between him and Donald Sutherland about like what his dad knows, like, are you calm? Because so much of this film is him taking like these little psych eval tests where he's answering questions. It's like, oh, you've passed the psych evaluation, like you're calm and you're cool and you're collected. And obviously all of this is building up to when he's not, because it's going to mean a lot when it eventually says you have failed, like you are not calm, because that'll mean something. But it's like we said, you see the moon, and it's like an airport, and it's got like, like shops and stores and various other things. But we get this cool little bit of mythology where, oh yeah, the secret base we're going to launch to Mars, because it's like a secret place, is on the dark side of the moon, and the territory between there and here is very dangerous because there's moon pirates.
There's moon pirates. Oh my god. What an intense scene that was too.
It was really good, and obviously they set it up so they had to do something with it. And all I could think about when I was watching this scene is that I've seen like really bad movies have like moon buggy chases and like how like shit they look and how cheap they feel. And in fact, I think there was an episode of Mystery Science Theater. I think it was Moon
02?
02, yes, that had stuff like this in it. But obviously it was dirt cheap and like done in like the 80s and looked like shit.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this is like a big budget like moon buggy chase. This looks great. It's so tense.
Like not only are there people on the moon, but there are people that like are pirates, like who just live off the land somehow.
Yeah, what I love about it is the sound design here, because it really plays with the idea that the only sound we're getting is the stuff that's coming through their suits, because they're all in this buggy, they're all in their suits.
Impact.
And we're hearing, things, impacts coming in, but it's all very muffled. It's all very, and it gives it this kind of like, it feels like when you're underwater and you can't hear what's going on up above, so you feel very kind of like your senses are kind of neutered, and you feel like you can't quite make it, you feel kind of trapped as a result. So even though he's in a suit, he can move around, he still feels trapped. Everyone feels trapped in this situation. And it feels very claustrophobic, and I think that was a really good effect.
Yeah, I totally agree. It was really well done, and I definitely noticed the sound, and I think the score had a lot to do with the tension here too, because you can't quite get all the sound effects from each explosion or bullet that's flying, because they have guns on Mars too, or not Mars, Moon.
Moon, yes.
Guns on the moon, just shooting with their buggies.
Yeah.
It was a good scene.
It was a really good scene, and it was like, okay.
And totally unexpected.
Yeah, this movie's doing different things. I'm into this. And the trip from the moon to Mars is a lot more difficult. He's given this this specific crew. They're not allowed to know what he's doing there. In fact, at one point he tries to kind of like pull rank because there's a distress call, and he's like, no, the priority is the mission. And he's like, look, you're a higher rank than me. This is the captain of the ship speaking. He's like, you're a higher rank than me. You can force this, but you're going to have to like tell us what the mission is in order to do it. And he kind of backs down and says, all right, answer the distress call. And it's this really weird little horror scene where like they get to this ship and it's the classic kind of derelict ship. No one's responding. You know, this could be a scene in Star Trek. It could be a scene in... It's literally like episode like 2 of Firefly or 3 of Firefly is like, you know, the ship that's like dead and like what happened here kind of thing. And they, you know...
All we know is it's an animal research station in space.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And they mentioned that may have been something with the electric surge, like knocked them out or something like that. And you know, Brad Pitt goes in with the captain, and you know they're looking about, and it's all quiet and eerie, and it's like scary. And then
there's like claw marks on the walls.
Yeah, this is proper like survival horror shit. And then a crazy baboon floating in the ship appears and you know kills the captain, and it's like, but it does this thing where you see the captain's body from behind, and then like the baboon lowers his body, and you just see the baboon, and it's like. Rah! You know, yells.
Yeah. Was not expecting a monkey.
Yeah, thanks, Cat. The cat's knocking my camera about not having this. But no, it's a really inventive little scene. I think honestly, the first half for me, as much as like so much of it is kind of like, oh, let's do this part of the mythology. Oh, let's introduce this stuff on the moon. Let's do this stuff on the way to Mars. Or even the idea of how they land, because obviously we think of like, lunar like ships and stuff, and the way they land is very. You know, imprecise. Well, it's precise. They always do a lot of calculations, but there's so much variables. Whereas now they're landing on a designated base that has like a terminal that comes out and attaches to it and all that. Like, there's a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of little things showing like how good Brad Pitt is. Like, you know, like the guy, the second in command who's trying to land the ship on Mars, like buckles and he can't do anything, and Brad Pitt like takes over and he's like, I won't rat you out, but. Like I had to save our ass because we're all going to die because
you know why I did that, right? Yeah. Work on it.
So this entire journey up until this point, I was just really into all the steps of it. I was into just discovering the world. What was it like? You know, I think like any worry I had, as soon as it was like on the moon, I was like, okay, I think I'm really into this world. I'm into like what is set up here. Once he's on Mars. You know, he goes into this, you know, this big padded room, this big soundproof room, and he sends this message, this scripted message they've given him, to talk to his dad, and there's no response. But he tries it again. But the second time he does it, he goes off script and just like gives it this heartfelt, honest message, and they react to something, but they won't tell him if he's responded. But obviously this gives them the coordinates because. The first big problem I kind of had plot-wise is this Ruth Negga's character's kind of weird, in that she shows up and she's like, "Hey, like my parents were, you know, on the not the Neptune, but on the ship, you know, the ship that went to Neptune with your dad, and
the Project Lima.
Lima, yeah." And we find out that, you know, there's been a lot of hints throughout the film that Tommy Lee Jones might have went crazy and did something bad. You know, he might even be responsible for these surgeries, and. We find out that because there was a mutiny on the ship, because some of them wanted to go home after like years of like no results, where he was just like, oh well, I took away their air supply, and unfortunately that meant killing all the innocent ones too, so they're all dead, the kind of thing. They find like this video footage of him, like it meant this video log that never made it back to the public, kind of thing, and because it was better for the company to make him out a hero rather than admit that this mission went this disastrously wrong.
Yeah.
And okay, that's all fine. But then what's weird about this is that Ruth Negga's character here, Lantos, her name is, she then like goes out of her way to help Brad Pitt sneak onto the ship because it's the same ship that he was on before. The crew that brought him to Mars are the ones that are going to go to Neptune to nuke Tommy Lee Jones's ship, and she's desperate for Brad Pitt to be on that mission to do it instead of them because reasons.
I mean, I wouldn't say no to help Brad Pitt, especially if I was alone on Mars with the same like 3 or 4 eligible bachelors for my entire life.
Well, as funny as that is, I mean, he doesn't ask for help. She comes to him. But what does she get out of it because why would she have a problem with them just nuking the ship?
I don't know.
Like,
and I did think about that when I was in the theater too.
Why does she have a problem with how they're doing it? Like,
all right, I guess I missed something.
Surely she would be fine with this. Yeah, just nuke them. Like, why you get a problem with that?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it has to do with her getting someone else to get closure from the Lima project since she can't. I don't know.
Even though they imply heavily that her helping him the way she does will lead to her being locked in a black site for like ever, and her life is over.
Worth it.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you start to think about it. And there's some great visuals, like, because she takes him to this like tunnel, and he sneaks up under the launch pad of this rocket, and the visuals here are great. There's a shot of him like walking through like all the smoke because it's all orange, and it's just a silhouette of him walking towards, and it's this beautiful, you know, you could put it in a wall, you could just print it, put it in the wall. It's beautiful.
But he also has to go through a tunnel, and then he ends up like swimming for a long time.
Yeah, that's
in the
first.
Dark.
That's first before the silhouette moment.
Yeah.
But here's the thing,
and that
though,
was pretty stunning too.
This does go off the rails a little bit though, because they do the whole thing where they're counting down to a launch, and he's still like at the bottom of the rocket, like in the, you know, where it's going to blast.
He's about to get torched.
And like he's like literally like climbing a ladder up to like a little porthole thing. I'm like, okay, first of all, why is there a door here? Secondly, like it just cuts to him being inside once they've blasted off, and he's not like strapped to a chair or anything. Like I was expecting to see him like go, you know, going around like mad because he's not strapped to a chair and there's still gravity, and so that was really weird. I thought it was like, how did he get on the ship that easily? It felt like just a magic cut. Doesn't matter. Just go with it. Just go with it. He got on the ship.
I sort of did, right? I sort of went, okay.
And then
there might actually be like a porthole there underneath the a rocket ship. I don't know. Like maybe that's what the workers use.
They cut the countdown too close. I'm just saying. Like it was like 3 seconds to go, and he was still
like
not inside.
Original series Star Trek moment.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And then the problems I have with the script is that, you know, after this, when he gets onto the ship, like the crew are told to eliminate him, right?
Yeah.
And they're basically just incompetent, and he's not even trying to kill them. Like Brad Pitt's not trying to kill them, but they all end up dead anyway.
Right.
And
we sort of saw that coming because it's the exact same crew that brought him to Mars that was doing the trip to Neptune for the super secret mission.
Okay, the new captain I'll give you, because he was shown to be completely incompetent. All right, I'll give you it.
Right.
But the other two didn't seem that bad. He
freaked out during the landing.
Yeah.
And we knew he was scared. He was too scared to go on the rescue party.
But they all end up dead, and you know Brad Pitt records like a little message for the black
brutal
box.
Scenes too.
Yeah. He's
brutal
like,
deaths.
Hey. You know, I'm not supposed to be here, and I regret to inform that my invasion, even though I had no hostile intent, resulted in the deaths of all crew members. And I'm like, when you get back, they're going to hang you. I don't even care if hanging's not a thing anymore. They're going to do it anyway, because this is like the most absurdly like vicious thing ever.
Unless either he doesn't get back, and he already knows that, or they make him out to be a hero like his dad.
Sure,
because he's successful.
It was just do you know what this whole thing was like? You know, getting onto the ship with a countdown and then having like to accidentally kill all 3 crew members. It felt like a really forced script thing, because it really
they all killed themselves. But
it felt like a really forced script thing, whether it was his fault or not. All of it felt contrived because the script was desperate for him to be on his own for the rest of the journey. They wanted him to be on his own. Yeah, but I
bought it. You know, they weren't very OSHA compliant on that rocket.
No, I will accept the reason for it. I will accept that. I agree that he should be on his own. I think there's a better way to get him to that point. But I will call bullshit in the choices that were made here to get rid of the crew and how they handled it. It felt a little bit silly. It was a little bit of a jump the shark moment. A little bit.
Okay.
What I think's funny though is it spends so much time like him going on the commercial flight to the moon, and there's so much time spent on the journey to Mars from the moon, and like the like, you know, running to that ship and the baboon and all that stuff, and yet the trip to Neptune feels like it's like 10 seconds, because he just like goes for like he puts on like a feeding tube, and it's like, just a quick little montage, and then we're at Neptune already.
Well, I mean, it's supposed to be 80 days, right? So that's like,
Which, by the way, 80 days to Neptune from Mars is insanely fast. Just I want to
like
point
three
that out.
months.
That is like silly fast, given how long it takes for us to get to like the moon.
Yeah.
Like that
Well, I
is.
mean, it's the future, right?
I'm
So
just saying.
apparently we figured out how to travel faster.
I'm just pointing out that it's much faster.
Yes.
Do you think he? And I'm going to embarrass myself here if I've got the order of the planets wrong, but I'm assuming since they're at the edge of the solar system, Uranus comes first.
I mean, it does,
Okay.
but if you're trying to make a sex joke, it doesn't really make any sense.
No, I mean I wasn't trying to make a sex joke, but I was just in my head I was going to
I think
crack
you
a
need to go
joke
back to school.
about passing Uranus and like passing
Okay.
Uranus on the way to Neptune. But
Yeah, I had a astronomy professor in college who refused to call it Uranus. And he also, like a lot of people just say Uranus, but it's still kind of a unfortunate name because you say urine and us. But he would say Uranus
Uranus.
the whole time. And everyone would just be so confused. And he would do these presentations and he would always say Uranus and insisted that that was the way that it was supposed to be pronounced. But I mean, we all just thought, oh, he means Uranus. And then we all just think this Uranus anyway and giggle. So, plus he looks dumb.
Yeah, he's making it worse. Hiding it, just making it feel more like a taboo thing. It's making it more worthwhile giggling about.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You
Neptune's a
teach
pretty.
nerds all day. Of course, we're all going to giggle at Uranus. Let
Oh,
us have our one joke.
yeah. So he gets to the ship. He gets to the ship and he sees it there, and he gets the nuke ready and he tries to like communicate with the ship and no one's answering. It looks a little bit damaged, and he tries to like connect on a little pod that he flies out in, and it won't connect properly. So he just has to like go out of the pod and let the pod float away. And I actually thought this moment was going to very much be the like this is him saying, admitting to himself that there's no return. Like this is him saying,
Yeah.
I can't get back to the other ship now. So that's me. I'm here. This is a suicide
Yeah,
mission.
me too.
Um,
Just going to die with my dad.
Luckily for him, he's got some surfing moves, and we'll get to that a bit later. Um,
Oh, that scene really bothered you.
it's just really stupid.
I
It
don't
looked
know, I
great.
thought it was nice.
It looked great. It looked fantastic. But like, well, correct me if I'm wrong, right? So the whole thing in a vacuum, right, in space, right?
Yeah.
You're
All
propelled.
the impact should slow him
Yeah,
down
all of the
significantly
impact should stop him
and
from
probably
moving.
change his direction.
Yes, he should probably start going back towards the other ship at some point. We'll get to it.
No,
I'll explain it. I'll explain it when we get there. Right, hold on. No, we'll do it. So after his dad's dead, we'll get to the dad bit in a bit. But we're talking about this now because Tara's wanting me to rant about it. So he does
We
this.
can wait. You're the one who brought it up.
He does this thing where he gets like a panel of metal off the outside of the ship, right, of his dad's ship, and he fires himself towards his other ship. He's sort of laying it up, and I'm like, okay, this is a fine idea. He's going to fire himself at the ship, trajectory, fine. What I didn't consider though is that he was going through the rings of Neptune. He was going through all the rocks and stuff that were floating, all the debris, and so the whole point is he's got this big metal sheet
Shield.
as a shield, yeah, to like as soon as he starts hitting things, I'm like, but why is this not slowing him down? It's space. Why does he still have all this momentum? It was kind of silly.
I mean, maybe he is bigger than the rocks. Maybe that makes a difference.
I don't think it does because the space, like weight's irrelevant, right?
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. Like even when he threw the shield away, I thought that was going to change his direction. Because if you throw something, doesn't that make you also go in the opposite direction of why you threw it?
And
I
zero
don't know.
gravity.
I thought there was going
Possibly.
to be some like Iron Man propellant or something to shoot him towards the ship.
Yeah, I thought he might have like some stuff in his backpack, like the little thrusters that would let him maneuver a little bit. But
That's what I was expecting too.
no, he he hits the ship and whatever. But yeah, so when he gets on his dad's ship and he's like setting things up, he's setting up the nuke, and we just hear his dad's voice say, hello son or hello Roy or whatever, And basically he has to convince his dad to come home, and his dad's like, no, this is home, this is my data, and we found like all these planets that we've never seen before, but none of them have anything, but it's out there. Because we see evidence throughout the film that, from the little snippets we get of footage, from the little photographs we get from this ship, that his dad was very much obsessed about finding intelligent life. That's what the whole mission was about. It was about finding life in other planets where, because they're at the edge of the solar system, they can get a clear view at a lot more places, and they're going to see all this stuff. And this would lead to whatever. And he became obsessed with it, and everyone else, he killed everyone else. And of course, a big part for McBride, for Roy, is that his father abandoned him at 16, and he's not seen him since. And this obviously weighed heavily on him. And a lot of his life, he was determined not to be his father. And the way it kind of does this in the film is that he was married. He was with Liv Tyler.
Okay, because I got the impression that he was exactly like his father throughout the entire film.
Well, no, he kind of is. That's kind of the point, is that he doesn't want to be, but he knows that he is. Like, he knows that he... Because the whole thing with Liv Tyler is that... So he was married to Liv Tyler, and, we don't even see her in any present-day scenes until the very final scene. Like, everything's just like a sort of glimpse of a flashback here or there. It's him with these regrets. And at one point before he goes on this mission, right near the start of the film, he tries to phone her and say, hey, I just want you to know that I didn't really want to leave you. And, but he raises the call and hangs up, and... sort of makes the choice. And that was like a big thing for me at the start. I was like, okay, that's his arc. His arc is actually wanting to make that leap. He can do all this space stuff, he can be all this brave shit, but he can't do this. And the whole thing with his father is that his father was obsessed with finding out stuff out there, with discovering new things, and not being happy with what he has, which was his wife and his son. And Roy is terrified of being that, and he realizes that he is kind of that, because that's the way he is with Liv Tyler, right? He left her, and we find out the reason why they split up is just because he was always dedicated to being an astronaut and his job, and never at home, never dedicating any time to his married life.
The compartmentalizing thing that he can do, right, where with emotion and with what needs to be done. That's why he's such a good astronaut, and that's why he's so good under pressure. They made a comment in beginning of the film saying his heart rate never goes above like a certain number, and even when he was falling from the atmosphere. Yeah,
he's not. I mean, that ties into him not connecting to what's in front of him. Is that he's not connecting to his emotions. He's not.
I mean, I was thinking he was more like a Vulcan, where he has these emotions, but he just chooses to ignore it so he can be better.
Are you trying? Can I finish my point? You keep derailing my point. So the whole point of this film.
My point is more important.
That he's like a Vulcan.
Yes, no, I'm glad I got to say it. You may continue.
The whole point of this film is that his father left him with some serious abandonment issues, and he doesn't want to be his father. And he's trying to convince his father at the end of the film to come home, that he does have things to appreciate, that he does have things back on Earth that he should appreciate. And this is where I was thinking of Carl Sagan and like the humbling of science. That, like, because one of the things that he says to his dad says he's been out here for 30 years or whatever. And he's basically just like, got no answers. And, Roy says, no, you proved that there isn't. That's still an answer. And it's this idea of science humbling, is like, understanding our place in the universe, and like, okay, okay, if this is all we've got, if the Earth is all we have, and the people around us are all we have, then maybe we should, respect that a bit more. And that gets into a lot of, you could take that into a lot of topics, climate change, and people being awful to each other, and anything you want to.
I don't want to live on the moon. They got pirates.
They got pirates, yeah. But ultimately, Roy's dad does like essentially commit suicide. He doesn't want to go back. He's too far gone, and he like lets go of the tether. And Roy tries to save him, but he's like, no, let me go. So it's a two-sided thing here, because his dad is like I said, too far gone, but also for Roy, it is literally like he has to let go of this, like this obsession, because essentially everything that's made him the way he is this obsession of living up to what his dad was, right? This dedication.
Everybody has been commenting along his journey, like, "Oh, your dad is the reason I, became an astronaut," or "He's a real hero." Or
he's not Roy McBride. He's you're Thingy's son. You're this guy's son. Yeah,
you're Captain McBride's son.
Yeah. So, and it's weighing on him the whole film. So yeah, the big dramatic choice is him deciding to go back. And I've heard people online say that the film might have actually ended better if it just ended with him trying to get back. Like if it was just him making the choice and starting his journey back and just ending there, kind of hopeful but ambiguous.
Oh, what? It's like another 2 minutes.
Well, it is, but that 2 minutes raises a lot. Even though I get, like, seeing him actually make the call to Liv Tyler and her showing up, showing that he's learned his lesson, that he's going to try and appreciate what's there in front of him, to appreciate life as it is, right? Don't get me wrong, you get that, but you don't really need it because it's the choice to want to go back that's the important part. We don't necessarily need to see him do it. And it raises a lot of questions, though, because think about it. So, like I was saying earlier, he gets back and no one's going to reprimand him for sneaking onto a ship and killing three people.
Well, he saved the world.
I mean,
they did it with his father. They made his father into a hero.
I know. It felt a little bit... Again, it's just one of those little script things that it feels less than thought out. It feels just a little bit clunky.
I don't know. I was okay with it. Okay. Because we got the rest, that backstory about his dad. What
about his dad?
Well, that he was made out to be a hero, even though he was, a traitor and murderer and killed like all of his crewmates.
Yeah, but even the innocent. Yeah, but we had that already, though, right? That wasn't in the ending.
Well, no, but I mean, him going back and being made a hero makes sense.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Because it's already been set up.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get what you're saying. I don't hate the ending. Like, I don't, like, some people hate those last couple of minutes. I'm fine with them, and I think the final point of, like, Liv Tyler walking in, like, does kind of complete the bow and what the story's been about. And, there's a lot of things in here, this idea of regret and, like, not being your father is actually a big theme of one of my favorite movies, Paris, Texas. Obviously, that's not a sci-fi movie or a space movie, but... so there's a lot of elements in this movie of other things that I love. There's a lot of, like, there's a little bit of Moon, a little bit of Gravity, a little bit of 2001, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah, and I know you don't really care for the movie, but I thought a bit of Whiplash also about having to...
I don't dislike Whiplash.
Oh, I thought you didn't like that movie.
No, Whiplash is all right.
Oh, okay. Well, the idea of what it takes to be the best of something, what you have to sacrifice. And, like... Who knows if he wasn't able to be totally emotionless and cut off or choose to compartmentalize what's priority. Like, could he be the best? Could he even get to Neptune like his dad did?
Sure. Is it worth it though? Like, that's kind of the point though, right? Is the sacrifice worth it?
Well, yeah, that's also the point of Whiplash is like...
I think it's more the point of Whiplash than is this movie, but yeah.
He's an amazing drummer, but at what cost? Like, was it worth it? Or do we only get great talent and great people because they go through so much?
Yeah, I actually don't think the ending of Whiplash is ambiguous. I actually have a firm stance in my answer to that question.
Oh, I assume your answer is no.
No, it's not worth it. No, it's horrible. He dumps Melissa Benoist in that movie. Come on. The fool.
Yeah, she's something, I guess.
The fool. It's just so what? Just so J.K. Simmons can look proud? Like, come on.
Well, I mean, we sort of had this discussion in Close Encounters of the Third Kind with Spielberg, what he's really saying about art.
Oh, of course. But this is less about art. This movie. This is, but it's not about art at all. It's purely about the expectations and the try to live up to his father and what his father abandoning him did to him. And I think the realization that so much of his life is based on his father leaving him is what makes him realize what he was doing to Liv Tyler. And he doesn't have any kids, but like what he would be doing to a kid if he did have one.
Right.
So no, it's like the movie has some rough edges, especially on its script. But the direction, the visuals, the performance, particularly from the lead, because some of the side characters are a little bit weird. Like, Ruth Negga's character, like, her decision is like, why do you have a problem with just nuking the thing? Like, sure, give him the information, let him know his dad's like a mass murderer, and like let him know that what happened and all that. But why do you care about him going on the mission instead of everyone else?
Yeah, I guess I didn't pick up on that either, but
yeah.
It's all right. I mean, it's still a good movie, and I like the scene of him crawling into the rocket and everybody trying to kill him, and then they all kill themselves. It was pretty good.
Just a bit schlocky, but schlocky at that moment. As was the surfing through the
Really?
rings of
Even when the
Neptune.
woman falls?
But yeah, when the woman falls and like just hits her head on like the door at the bottom of the ship.
So much gore.
Yeah, there was a surprising little bit of gore here or there actually. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I always enjoy gore. I'm not an anti-gore person by any means. You know I love a bit of gore. But yeah, yeah, it's a good movie. It is a really good movie. Even I'd go as far as say that it's basically great. Oh, hi Foxy, you all right?
Sorry.
Was that a cat-related bark?
Yeah.
It was.
Of course
Okay.
it was.
Yeah, just checking. So, no, like I think the movie overall is very, very good, and I think the more I've thought about it since I saw it, I've both liked it more for all the things I like it for, but obviously I've noticed a lot more like holes in the logic and some of the plot, and like there's a couple of things that I noticed when I was watching it, and then there was some things like like the whole motivation for her to want him to go on the mission. That was something I didn't really think about until after, and I was like,
Yeah.
why did she even care that he went on that mission? Like,
Yeah.
what difference does it make to
Yeah,
her?
I agree, but I mean, I can forgive a little bit of plot hole here and there if
Oh,
the
sure.
movie's good, and I think the movie's really good, and I think it's worth watching and catching it in theaters if you can.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one real thing it suffers from, that I was saying earlier, is that it is kind of an assembly of like greatest hits of other movies in a way, which is something that.
I don't mind. I mean, isn't that all of like Quentin Tarantino's work too?
Oh no, it kind of is. It kind of is. The difference is with Tarantino is I've not seen most of the movies he's stealing from, so they don't stick out to me as much. But like I guess what I'm saying is that there is this feeling recently in the last couple of years where I feel like a lot of movies have felt like they're
Right.
concoctions based on other movies, and that's always been true to an extent. Don't get me wrong, but I'm feeling it a bit more the last couple of years. Like everything I like seems to be like, yeah, I really like that, but it's
Well,
not. It's
yeah,
not.
I guess fans are becoming directors.
Yeah, yeah, that could be part of the reason. Because like even like the movies I'm liking recently in recent years, I'm feeling like yeah, I'm really liking them, but like I compare them to movies from like 20 years ago, and I'm like, yeah, they don't hold a candle to like the spark that was in some of those. Not in every case,
Yeah,
but
it's hard to beat the Predator.
like I really, really, really like this movie, right? But
Yeah, me too.
I like Gravity more. I like Moon more. I like 2001 more. Like all most of the
Yeah, I
things.
felt like I watched all three of those films when I was watching this one.
Yeah, but like maybe not all, but most of the movies that I'd compare this to that I think it's taken something from, I like them all more. Like they're all better because they all did these things first. Even though this movie I think has a great tone and a great atmosphere and aesthetic, and the character journey is really good. And I'm glad it's about a character like story because sometimes if it's missing that it just feels hollow. And I don't think this feels hollow.
Yeah.
It's a bit on the nose at
No,
times,
no, not at all.
but it's not hollow.
I really enjoyed Brad Pitt in this movie, and I liked his character a lot too. Like he's just I liked the psych evaluations that he had to give. They were interesting, and seeing his progress after like he finds out his dad's alive, and how it just sort of breaks him because he's always been so reserved since his dad left him.
Yeah.
And there's even a moment where he's starting to like talk about rage, and he's still been like cleared for psych evaluation. And I kind of thought, I wonder if these psych evaluations are bullshit.
Yeah, I was
at
getting that
point.
impression. Well, because the whole thing as well is that they're lying to him about what the mission is, and that they're just going to nuke him, and
Yeah.
like they keep a lot close to the chest. But yeah, let's rate the movie then. I think we're at that point. Tara, what are you giving Ad Astra?
I really enjoy seeing science fiction in the theaters. One that's not schlocky, like you say, or super big budget, where it's just a cartoon of a film. I want to support movies like this, and I like movies that take chances and give me something that I don't expect. And this one, ticked a lot of boxes. You're right, and a lot of them were very familiar,
Mm-hmm.
and we had seen them before. But I still had a really good time. I liked the journey. And yeah, it's not a perfect film, but I'd like to see more movies like this. So I'm going to give it an 8. I think it's an 8 movie.
That was very well reasoned. I think, yeah, I'm kind of a similar boat. I'm thinking 8 out of 10 as well. It's the sort of thing where like I wish that extra little spark, that would propel it like further. But
Hmm.
there's just enough to nitpick at it. There's enough to kind of like take away from it. But it is a really solid, great time that it has a really great like sort of mood and atmosphere where you're in that world, you're kind of engrossed in it, and yeah. So if I think it's the sort of thing where I would never show this first to someone if I'm trying to get them into sci-fi because I know I want to show them all the movies that they stole from instead.
Sure, yeah.
But if you're already a sci-fi fan and you want some more of that, and you want a pretty solid sort of greatest hits of some of that stuff, that's fairly well put together, not without its faults, but I think Ad Astra offers that. So I will also give it an 8 out of 10, and there we go. That is Ad Astra, the new film with Brad Pitt, directed by James Gray, who I have never seen any other films by. I don't think he. This is the first time he's done sci-fi. He did Lost City of Z, The Immigrant, Two Lovers.
Oh, I saw that movie.
We Own the Night.
That one had a lot of narration also.
Interesting. That's his thing, is it? He likes a nice dramatic
I
narrator.
actually didn't really care for it
Oh,
all
okay.
that much. I thought it was a bit too slow,
Okay.
and like, it was okay, but it wasn't. I definitely thought like I like the look of the film, and I would like to see more by the director. So, but just the actual like premise of the story, I didn't really care about.
Oh, that's fair. That's
But
fair.
it gets great reviews. It's probably something a lot of people, would like to see. Would like it if they saw it.
Yeah. So no, Ad Astra. Go to your local theater should you wish to see it. I think it opened at number 2. And made like 21 million or something like that. At the box office for the
What else
weekend.
came out? Rambo came out, right?
Yeah. Tara, brace yourself. The reviews are not being kind. And
I know. I saw.
not only that,
It was so disappointing because the last Rambo was
I
so
know,
good.
and I know someone who's a huge fan of like movies like that, and was really looking forward to it. And his tweet when he came back from seeing it was, "Well, I can say this about the new Rambo movie. At least it was short."
Oh,
And he loves that franchise, so yeah, I'm
I
glad.
love the first one and the fourth one, and two
Yeah,
or three are fun, but the first and the fourth are great.
yeah. No,
Great
I
movie.
think the first one's like a genuinely great film that people
Hmm.
people ignore almost because they just think, oh, it's a Rambo movie, and like, no, the first one's like a proper really good movie about PTSD. Seriously,
Yeah,
like go watch
yeah,
First Blood, and then the fourth one was really good and better than it had a right to be, and then 2 and 3, like you say, are just kind of fun action movies that are not
yeah.
nowhere near as poignant as the first one, but they're enjoyable. And then
Written by
5
James
is
Cameron too, right?
the second one is First Blood Part 2, yeah, is by James Cameron, which he took that job at the same time as Aliens because
Yeah.
he almost turned down writing Aliens because I've already got this Rambo movie to write, and someone told him I remember this from the extras on Aliens Blu-ray is like, no, take both jobs, are you crazy? And obviously he ended up directing Aliens, which for the better because it just happens to be my favorite movie of all time, so he made the right call. uh, so
Yeah. I didn't see
Jimbo.
any aliens in this movie in Ad Astra.
Oh, there was no
Like any
aliens.
influence from the movie Alien.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, um, unless you count just like searching the derelict ship kind of thing, because
Mm,
Alien did kind of do that, and but it makes you think more of maybe other sci-fi properties that have done it in a more similar context to
yeah.
this. So
I froze.
you froze. Oh, that's a nice freeze though. That's a nice. That could be a photo. That one.
That's like the yeah, like the high school or middle school photo.
Yes, and you almost look like you still be there at that age.
What?
I was saying you look young. I was trying to be nice.
Oh,
I was doing the opposite of what I normally do.
yeah. Whenever you say the words "you" and "age" in a sentence, it's usually not a compliment. Thank you.
I was trying to do the opposite. I was trying to
Look,
be
I don't want to be
nice.
in middle school age. See, this the curly Sue look. Makes me look youthful.
Need the big thick rim glasses.
I actually hate the word youthful. It sounds like I'm trying to say the word useful, but I have a speech impediment.
Youthful. Useful.
Yeah,
I can see it.
exactly. Right?
I can see
I
it.
also don't like the word mouth.
Mouth. The word mouth.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like mouse.
I'm learning so much. I'm learning so much. So that has been Ad Astra. So thank you very much for joining us for the discussion. You can, of course, let us know what you thought of the movie in the comments below. You can like and you can subscribe. Obviously, if there's other movies, sci-fi movies that you think should be Ace movies, I'm not going to promise what we'll do them. We might look at the movie and look at a trailer and say, nah, we can wait for home release. But if there's movies that you think we are maybe not paying attention to, that you would like to bring to our attention, by all means, you can say that kind of thing. So yeah, obviously if you want to send us questions and things to answer at some point, you can do that at mftvquestions@gmail.com. You can, of course, rate the podcast on the podcast app, 5 stars, Apple Podcasts especially. Rate us a nice review, helps more people find us. And as we mentioned earlier, Patreon's a big thing, so go and support us over there financially if you want to, and it would mean the world to us. So that is us. That has been the episode. We have a regular episode coming up on Thursday, which for the public will be the Philadelphia experiment, and for patrons who get the episodes a week early, you're getting Terminator Salvation. So
Dun, dun, dun.
Buckle your seatbelts for that, because
Buckle up.
Because that was a 2-hour.
Is that another 2 hour?
Yeah, I think that was the longest episode. Nah, maybe Terminator 3 just slightly beat it, but if it did, it was by like a smidge, just a smidge.
Will this movie be better than Terminator 3?
You'll find out on Thursday if you're a patron.
Tune in.
You'll find out next week if you're not. And will Terminator Genesis be even longer than every other Terminator movie we've done? Probably.
It's going to be all... It's like... I mean, normally it's like 80-20 Peter and Tara, but this will be like 95 Tara. 95-5 Peter and Tara.
Do I need to shut up more? Is that what you're saying? Do I hog the mic too much?
No. You're the pro.
No, I need to let you...
I'm just here trying to distract my cat so that I can chime in every now and then.
I will let... for the record, I made Connor and Tim both do the Patreon plugs today, and they were both like a deer in the headlights. You have become so smooth at it. And...
yeah. Oh. You've been making me do this since the beginning.
Yeah, no. But that is us. That has been the Atomic Cinema Experiment. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. The regular episodes do go up a week early on Patreon, but these theatre releases will just go straight up for everyone as extra episodes. So thank you once again for joining us. Keep watching sci-fi movies and computer ad salsa.
Yum, yum.